And Mark, let's close out the podcast because it's the end of the podcast. I will do what I did at the beginning of the podcast. Make sure to check out patreon.com/mostvaluable podcast. That is how you help support MVP, help us get new equipment, help us. The big one for this year is helping us get a new studio so we're not in this 10 by 12 room that we're in. We thank Pete for letting us use it, but we want more space to do better videos and do more different ideas for you guys. So patreon.com/mostvaluable podcast is where you can support us. And Mark, let's end the podcast going on into the New Orleans Saints. Their breakdown goes like this. So last year they were 8th in yards per game offensively, 379 yards per game. Points per game, they were 3rd, scoring 31.5 points per game. Defensively, they were just above middle of the pack, 14th in yards per game, giving up 349 yards. 14th in points per game, giving up just over 22 points per game. Free agency for this team. I'm going to have to scroll down because this article that I look at refreshed itself on me.
Oh, that was nice of them.
This is one where they bring back Teddy Bridgewater. After visiting with Miami, Bridgewater decided to sign a 1-year deal with the Saints.
Decided he didn't want to be in Miami.
They bring in Malcolm Brown on a 3-year deal. Jared Cook signed a 2-year deal. Mario Edwards signed a contract. They re-signed Will Lutz to a 5-year deal. Latavius Murray signed a 4-year deal, filling that hole of Mark Ingram, and they bring in re-signed PJ Williams to a 1-year deal. I will ask you this to start, because for me, it's about a 75% of where I'm sitting with this.
Yeah.
What's your percentage that the Saints repeat as NFC South Divisional champs and make it 3 in a row in 2019?
I'm feeling really good about it. I do think there's potential they could take a little bit of a step back. Because I don't think Latavius Murray is going to be Mark Ingram. But
he's got to be back
Kamara,
up to Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, Alvin Kamara did a pretty good job when Ingram wasn't there, so maybe he can again. But with that being said, I think that I'm going to give it like 60. A little less than you, but it's about 60% chance that they do it again. I do think that this could be a year where the Carolina Panthers bounce back really strongly and make their run at it, especially when you've got it set up so nicely for Week 17 to be that winner gets the division type of a game. But I do think there's a really great chance that the New Orleans Saints find their way in the division again. We'll talk about schedule later, but there are definitely some things that concern me in that case.
Well, and this is the one to me where it's like usually with the lower teams, it's like, oh, what do they have to do here? With this one, it's pretty much just staying the course. And you brought up Latavius Murray where he's not going to be Mark Ingram. I think that was a huge signing for the New Orleans Saints because I liked what Latavius Murray did for my Minnesota Vikings last year when Dalvin Cook was injured, and if he's basically coming to New Orleans with the same role that it was expected for him to be last year, whether he liked that role last year, whether he didn't, I'm assuming it didn't faze him if he's going to go to the New Orleans Saints and have that same role, but it was supposed to be Dalvin Cook is our number one, he'll get most of the reps, kind of be more of a receiving kind of speed back, and you're going to be our more traditional running back, 3 down behind Drew Brees, kind of a runner. And I feel like Mark Ingram was good, but Latavius Murray's also younger than Mark Ingram, which is better in terms of running backs when you can get that guy who's younger. I mean,
but I also don't know that he's going to be expected to have as much workload as
which I
Mark
don't think
Ingram.
is a bad thing.
No, I don't think that's a bad thing either.
It comes down to efficiency, where he might not be leaned on as much as Mark Ingram, but what will Latavius Murray be able to do in the times they do lean on him? Because they are going to use both him and Kamara in this offense.
Yeah, and Kamara, I think, kind of can take over. I think I expect him to become a little bit more of a true number one running back. It's just going to be interesting if that really is as successful.
And I'm dead wrong. I'll ask you this, Mark. Do you think Mark Ingram is older than Latavius Murray?
Well, no.
because
Not really.
I was thinking of both.
Isn't Mark Ingram only
head.
been in the league for about 5 years?
So Mark Ingram got drafted in 2011.
Okay,
so this will be
a little
his
bit longer than I
year
thought.
in the league.
Actually, yeah, that's a lot longer than I thought.
Latavius Murray got drafted in 2013. They're both 29. I mean, I feel like Mark Ingram, I've been saying his name for like ever.
Yeah.
That I was like, oh, he's probably like 33. No,
I
he's
actually
29.
thought he was. Yeah, I actually thought he was even younger than that.
I'm also almost the same height as Mark Ingram. He's got about 2 inches on me. But that aside, this team, like the thing that's hard about this preview, there's not much to say. Like, I mean, offensively,
That's what happens when it's a really good team.
I mean, offensively, like running back. I mean, I'll ask this with tight end because they give up Jimmy Graham. They haven't really had that kind of. Is Jarrett Cook gonna have a big year because he has Drew Brees?
He could, but Drew Brees is the guy who spreads the ball around. Where it's not like you're gonna have just an absolutely amazing year. And Drew Brees isn't the 5,000-yard passing monster that he used to be. He's a guy who hands the ball off nowadays. He's been kind of, I don't want to say tamed, but he's in a little bit of a different offense than he was used to before. So I don't think Jared Cook has to be an absolute dominant force like Jimmy Graham used to be. He can be just a above average pass catching tight end, and he's going to fit this offense really well, but he's going to maybe disappoint some fantasy owners.
I mean, I even look at this defense too, and just
it's great.
Like I totally forgot this team had Malcolm Brown on it.
Yeah.
So now their line is potentially Cameron Jordan, not Jordan Cameron, Cameron Jordan, Sheldon Rankins, Malcolm Brown, Marcus Davenport. Good effing luck.
Yeah.
Good effing luck with that.
The only thing that's a little bit weaker is probably the defensive backs. They did draft back-to-back safeties this year.
Yeah, I mean, the safeties aren't amazing to me, but I mean, they trade for Eli Apple.
Which is not exciting.
Give or take what you think there. But I mean, Marshawn Lattimore's not bad.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're bad. It's just that's the weak spot.
Yeah.
And like I said, not bad. It's just that a team's going to have a weak spot, and we found it in this case.
I mean, the thing I'll ask is this, which when it comes to the Saints, I think this is more of the kind of discussion point that we can hit because this is a team, you look at them the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Getting to the playoffs, not the problem. Where 2 years ago, Minnesota Miracle, they were the road team in the divisional round.
It's not a miracle when you're the Saints.
Lost to the... Well, it's a miracle for me, Mark.
Yeah.
Because Saint fans, I know this is going to be like salt in the wound, but I don't care. I was sitting there in front of my TV, completely crushed.
Yeah.
Great. Game is over.
Everybody's talking shit to Ricky in the group chat.
The group chat was just salt in my wound.
Yeah,
to
that's
where
great.
During those games, I hate every single one of you.
It's amazing.
I hate
it's
you.
So
I
beautiful.
hate Dave. I don't remember Sean saying much, but he
Sean was
probably
talking trash.
I hate all of it. No, it was Brandon who was being nice. Brandon was the only one that gets a pass.
Yeah.
Where the rest of you assholes don't get anything.
Beautiful.
Where basically I remember that play happened. I don't even remember seeing Stephon Diggs run into the end zone because as soon as he turned to run, I was running down my basement in joy. Yeah. Running up and down the basement, screaming because I was so happy that the Vikings were going to win that game.
And it was shocking. It was absolutely shocking.
So, point is, they lose that one.
Can I also say...
Go ahead.
Because why not at this point?
But we got demolished in the next game.
Well, there's also that. That was fun, too. But can we stop just referring to things as miracles? Because, that's not a miracle. That was a young player making a dumb mistake.
I mean...
It's not a miracle. A helmet catch is a miracle. And that's not even called a miracle. That's the catch.
I mean, to have a player do that, I think is
have a player make a dumb mistake is not a miracle. A miracle would be like the ball tipped off of a finger and he just barely caught it. That's a miracle.
Let us have this, Mark. It's been 2 years.
The miracle is the Hail Mary that, just magically falls into the right guy's hands.
We call it a miracle because we were expected to lose. That's why. But my point being, they then, hey, we're just going to be the second best team in the league. Oh, wait, they go up against the best team in the NFC. And yes, it was in overtime, Yes, they got screwed out of that game
Yeah, they did.
again.
They really did.
That's the one where it's like, if I have the Minnesota Miracle pill, if I'm a Saints fan, I could swallow because it's, hey, you know what? Like, it's our players' fault.
It's a dumb mistake, but it happened.
It was a good catch by Diggs because Diggs still could have dropped the catch. He still had to stay in bounds, which was really impressive. But for the Rams Saints game, it was basically a zebra screwing you out of the game. Where even Roby was like, "Hey man, I thought I got away with pass interference." But
he did.
And then Roby right after, we go into the Super Bowl,
right? There's nobody I think out there. Whether you think that Saints fans overreacted or not, I don't think there's a single person out there who actually is going to say it was not pass interference.
Oh, they got robbed, like absolutely robbed. Here's the question I asked, two-parter. Number one, the serious question of, if we go and based on levels, is this team going to be a Super Bowl team this year? And here's my a-hole question to that.
Yeah.
Will they lose in the Super Bowl because they lose in
a ridiculous...
first it was the wild card, or first it was the division, then it was the conference championship. Now they'll lose in the Super Bowl.
And now it's got to up the ante. Like, it's got to be that Drew Brees just explodes on the field.
They lose to the Browns.
Right? No, see, that's not a big thing. Like, the ball needs to get snapped to Drew Brees, and it hits him in the face, and he gets a concussion.
I don't know. Being the team to give the Browns a Super Bowl win would be pretty embarrassing to me.
See, I feel like when the Browns win their Super Bowl eventually, people are going to be like, it's okay, the Browns had it coming. Like, they deserved it. It's like when the Indians lost to the Cubs. It's okay, the Cubs have been losers for 100+ years. They deserve it. You'll be good another day. Don't worry about it. It's okay. Yeah, that's a little much. I think that they've been my Super Bowl favorite for the past 2 years. The odds are they will probably be my Super Bowl favorite from the NFC again this year. Because I still think they're the best team in the NFC. They still are the best team in the NFC. Yes, the Rams compete with it, but I think Super Bowl hangover matters. It more often does than doesn't. So I think that the New Orleans Saints do, once again, have a really good shot at getting there. There are things that I sit there and say, well, how are the defensive backs going to do? How's Alvin Kamara going to do with most likely an increased workload? You know, and he did fine before. But there are just little things here and there, but they're such minor things when you compare it to other teams that you truly do expect the Saints to just kind of run away again. Maybe not be a 13-3 team, but I definitely think they're going to be right in the conversation again.
Yeah, and I know I forgot to throw this out at the beginning, but one of our patrons, Jake, who's a huge Saints fan, he was so upset when they got screwed, and he's always talking about how the Minnesota Miracle, me and him, are able to go back and forth in the Discord, which you guys can do for as low as $1, talk along with us. But, like, yeah, this is a team, like, even looking at last year, they were 13-3, and if you look at their losses, a 3-point loss to Dallas, which could have went the other way, 14-2.
Yep.
And a loss to Tampa, because Ryan Fitzpatrick blew the doors off and beat them 48-40 in a shootout. Yeah,
they win both
shocked. Those. Those could have been a 15-1, where that Ram game could have been a vastly different game. Oh no, they were the Panthers. Better. They were the better record. I forgot that game was in New Orleans, so it wouldn't have mattered. But like they could have been a 15-1 team instead of 13-3. I know that doesn't really matter in the playoffs. And really,
Week 17. Bridgewater was your quarterback. That game's a wash anyways.
So, like, this team to me, yes, like, losing Mark Ingram is the biggest loss for this team. But I think Latavius Murray is going to be a good enough substitute to where you don't skip a beat.
Even if production goes down, you're hoping that it's not down by much.
So, are we under the I'll say, the impression that on top of the schedule, that can they overcome the NFC South, AFC South, the NFC West, and then the North Division, they get the Bears. They're at Chicago Week 17. And from the NFC East, I got to find them, they're playing the Dallas Cowboys at home Week 4. Can this Saints team overcome what we have said is a pretty difficult schedule for the South in the NFC?
I think they can. The hard thing is, you got the Texans at Rams, at Seattle, Cowboys, who you lost to last year, although this time it is a home game for you. That's a tough 4-game start. But I've already said it multiple times, Super Bowl hangover for Rams. It's early, so the Texans should be healthy, but you never know when those injuries are going to hit. The Saints can get started and go strong. If they get through those first 4 games doing pretty well, then the Buccaneers, they have to go to Jaguar, they have to go to Chicago. It's another one of those, they don't really get any breaks. There's a small little one where it's like Cardinals, Falcons, Bucks. That's a little bit of a break, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be a difficult one for sure.
The thing that I wouldn't like if I was a Saints fan, not saying that they can't overcome it, but that I wouldn't like, and it comes before the bye, LA, Seattle, Jacksonville, Chicago, all away. Yeah. All away from New Orleans, where it's like, yeah, I know what you're saying, the Rams and Super Bowl hangover, but I don't think they're going to be a terrible team. They can probably still win the NFC West and make the playoffs. And
I don't know, though, the Saints, that's a big revenge game for the Saints.
But I'm saying, like, with it being in LA, that I think that'll be a closer game than what viewers may think we're implying. But, like, having those 4 games be on the road, I think is already trying to put the Saints against the 8 ball, to say, hey, we're going to try to stack the load against you in a way so that it's, hey, you were a game away from the Super Bowl. You're a really good team. You're going to have to earn it, which I think they will. This team, I think, is going to stay healthy. They'll play really well. They'll probably be 1-2. Their ceiling is 1. Their floor is 3. Like, that's how I see it in the NFC, where they're either 1 and 2. A bad season for them is that they are the 3rd best team in the NFC South. But I mean, that Chicago game too, I also look at that and kind of circle it because there are a lot of people that think now that the Bears made the playoffs last year, won the division, there's a lot more fans, obviously. They're like, oh, we're going to come and we're going to be really good this year, which, like, you guys should. It's not like you guys had a fluke. You guys have a really good team. But I feel like, how good are the Bears going to be? Are the Bears going to be a team that inserts itself into that first round bye debate or race? And could the Saints be the team? The Saints, not the Rams. The Saints be the team that gets bumped out into 3rd and has to play wild card weekend as the home team.
Yeah, and it could be potentially, especially, and I don't know if it'll be competing for the division or just a wild card spot, and maybe the Saints can play spoiler to the Panthers and knock them out, much like the Bears did to the Vikings last year. I don't know if it'll be that week 17 or what, but it's definitely set up for something, and it should be something. But I don't expect this team to be 13-3 again. I wouldn't be surprised if they were like a 10-6, 11-5 team, which is still a really good record. Still easily playoffs, and still could easily be the division winner here. But they might have to work a little bit harder to get into the playoffs this year.
Well, and the last thing that we will do here is I'll give mine first. If I'm going to give my early prediction of how I feel the division's going to play out, Saints are going to be number 1, Panthers are going to be number 2, Falcons are going to be 3, and the Buccaneers will be a top 5 team in the draft and be last place in the South.
Yeah, my standings aren't any different. It's Saints, Panthers. I do think Panthers will probably compete at least for a division spot, but the Saints are going to take it. Then the Falcons, which will be a few games back, and then, the Bucs are going to be quite a few back.
Well, and this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you guys think down below in the comment section. I know in Discord, I'm going to hear, or we're going to hear, what Jake has to say. Jake, our patron, that is a huge Saints fan. If you want to join us in the Discord, patreon.com/Most Valuable Podcast, that bronze level tier, for as low as $1, you get to join the Discord and talk with Jake, John, Retro's in there, Pat's jumping in. You got myself, Sean, Mark, Brandon, Johnny. We're all accessible in there. So go check that out, patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. Want to thank Mark for doing the podcast with me as always. Follow him on Twitter at @the Mark Weber. I'm at Ricky Widmer. Most Valuable Podcast is at Most Valuable Pod. Want to thank you guys for watching on YouTube. Thank you guys for listening on podcast services around the world. And as always, have a good day, everybody.